Roland Cloud is an ever-expanding collection of the most authentic recreations of legendary Roland synthesizers and drum machines, as well as brand new electronic instruments and strikingly realistic deep-sampled acoustic instruments. With full support for VST, audio units, and AAX, you get unlimited access to everything, including every new instrument and update, all for one low monthly price. Roland Cloud is the only place to get official Roland virtual instruments, and these are meticulously crafted down to the circuit recreations of some of the most iconic instruments ever made. You get the monster polyphonic analogs like the Jupiter 8, and Juno 106. You also get vintage digital synths like the massively influential D50. And the JV1080. Roland Cloud includes the only authentic recreations of the TR-808 and TR-909 available. And not to rest on our laurels, you also get software versions of the mighty System 8 and System 1 synthesizers. Keep up with the latest trends with Flavor, a series of bite-sized, genre-based instruments that make it easy to inject a certain style into a track. The Terra series complements the wealth of electronic instruments on offer. These are deep sampled acoustic instruments that offer stunning detail and expression. New instruments and updates are delivered to Roland Cloud Manager automatically, so you never have to worry about having the latest version or purchasing updates. Pause whenever you like, and with every 12 months of service, you can pick any instrument to keep, even if you cancel your subscription. Go to RolandCloud.com to start your no-risk, no-hassle, no credit card required 30-day free trial.
Zenology Pro is the sound designer's version of Zenology. It has the same synthesis engine, but now you can open up the hood and tweak your sounds with a vast number of parameters. And since Zenology Pro can export sounds in custom user banks, it can be used as a detailed visual editor to create custom tones to be transferred to your Phantom, Jupiter, MC Groovebox, or other compatible Zencore hardware. So let's jump in and check out the interface for Zenology Pro. Right now we have the main Zenology window open, and you can see we have the top level controls like cutoff, resonance, attack, release, and vibrato, and also some pretty important controls on the left like mono, unison, legato, and portamento. However, what we want to do is press the edit button, and this will open up the full editing capabilities of Zenology Pro. I'm also going to press the MFX button to expose the MFX section, which allows us to add very powerful effects at the end of our patch. Now, if we take a look at the top right section here, the structure section, this allows us to get a bird's eye view of the architecture of our sound. And not only that, it allows us to navigate through any of the four partials of which our tone is made of. And really, each partial is its own complete synthesizer. And also, we're able to select specific sections that we want to edit. So just the oscillator section, just the filter section, etc. And this will allow us to edit the four partials visually at the same time. Now, on the far right of this section, we have the range and control section. And this allows us to visually change things like the keyboard range and fade of each partial, and the velocity range and fade of each partial. Just below, we have our matrix control section where we can change our settings for some more advanced and custom modulations and control routings. Moving back to the main partial editing screen by selecting partial 1, let's open up the browser and choose from one of the many thousands of sounds available within Zenology. Let's go with this Jupiter 6 inspired sound. Let's get a sequence running and we'll take a look at how this patch is put together. Taking a quick peek at the structure section, we can see that partial 1, 2, and 3 are turned on. Let's turn off partial 2 and 3 for now, and we just want to take a look at partial 1. Popping down to the filter, let's open it up using the visual editor, just so we can hear the oscillator section a little bit better. So, when looking at the oscillator section, you can see that there are 5 different types of oscillators to choose from. Right now, partial 1 is on the VA, the virtual analog oscillator. Now you can see there's a bunch of classic waveforms here with some surprisingly powerful modulations which you might not expect, like pulse width on a sine wave and this fat control which adds some cool subharmonics. Let's put that back to where it was. And we'll close the filter back down. Let's take a look at partial 2. We're going to add it into partial 1. So as another layer, partial 2 is using the PCM engine, which allows you to choose from a ton of different waveforms, many sampled classic synthesizer waveforms, as well as some really interesting acoustic waveforms. And what's so cool about those PCM waveforms is you can mix acoustic waveforms with the VA engine for that real nice attack of the PCM with the warmth and the richness of the VA. Now, let's take a look at partial 3. Let's get our sequence going again. Partial 3 is using the supersaw oscillator, and this only has one main control, very easy to use, and it gives you that legendary Roland supersaw sound. We've also got a noise oscillator, which simply adds noise, which is a great layer to use for percussiveness or just different kind of vibes in your patch. And finally, we've got the PCM sync oscillator. Now let's turn off partial 1 and 2 for a second and take a quick look at some of these. Now, the PCM sync is a quite unique type of oscillator as it has these PCM waves which are very rich in harmonics, really interesting, but you can also have them hard synced. So let's go back to the supersaw. And let's pull up a different patch, but keep the same sequence running. Let's go with string bell synth. And if we take a very quick look at how this one is set up, we can see that all 4 of partials are turned on, and one of them is simply called piano thump in the oscillator section. And if you listen, it's really just the attack of a piano hammer, adding a subtle but important layer to the sound. Let's choose one more preset to work with this sequence. And for that, I'm going to go to the XV collection and move down and select a preset called Temple of JV. So right below the oscillator section, we have our pitch envelope section, as well as our basic controls for each oscillator, like coarse tune, fine tune, and some modulations. Just to the right, as we've seen, we have the filter section, which has modulations along the bottom, cutoff and resonance controls here, as well as a visual editor for cutoff and resonance. And along the top, we've got a bunch of different filter types, including some modeled filter types. If we click the envelope tab, we'll expose the filter envelope. And then just to the right, we've got the amp envelope, and behind that we have an EQ for just this partial. Just below the amp envelope, we've got a level control, pan, velocity sensitivity, and some modulations coming from the LFO. Now, I'd like to take a look at the LFO section, and this patch is quite interesting because if we take a look at partial number 3, we will see that it's only playing notes in the lower range. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off partials 1, 2, and 4 and loop this part of the sequence. There we go. So as you can hear, partial 3 is only playing lower notes. It's almost like it's its own sequence by filtering out the upper notes there. So let's take a quick look at partial 3. We're going to go ahead and change it to a VA oscillator. Close down that filter a bit, and let's take a look at the LFO section. So right now we've got a key-triggered and tempo-synced LFO going to the amp. Let's add that to the filter. So we've got a very kind of tempo-based LFO here, and we've got a bunch of traditional shapes to work with, some stranger shapes, as well as the very powerful step LFO. And what we're going to do with the step LFO is we'll speed it up a bit and have it synced to eighth notes. And what you can see here is every step can have a different shape on it. Now let's put some different shapes for every step. And add some resonance so we can really hear that modulation. So you can get some very interesting movement going on. Zenology Pro is also great for drums, with a ton of different kits to choose from that range from old school analog drums to more acoustic style drum kits, and the ability to replace any of the instruments with sounds from a huge list available in the browser. Now, each instrument can also be tuned up the way you want, added into a different mute group, and also output to effects or through multiple different compressors. You can view and edit the drum kits in two different ways, being the kit view or the pad view, and each of them allow you to edit the level, pan, attack, decay, and release of each instrument, as you can see here. When editing either drums or tones, you can also open up the Pro Edit area of Zenology Pro to see a massive array of Zencore parameters that allow you to go deeper down the rabbit hole and tweak some very specific settings. Within Zenology, you can create and save custom user banks from your own original sounds, your favorite presets, and sounds from the ever-expanding collection of sound packs available for download. Once you have your user bank ready, you can export it to your computer to be loaded into your compatible Zencore hardware. If you're working with a Jupiter X or XM, you can also import and export model expansion tones between your hardware and Zenology. Zenology Pro is now available on Roland Cloud. It can be purchased as a lifetime key or is included with Pro and Ultimate memberships, where you also get all of the sound packs, wave expansions, and even model expansions for Zenology. Get it all today at roland.com. From rare and sought-after classics to exciting new designs, Model Expansions put world-class Roland synthesizers in your DAW and compatible Zencore hardware. In this video, we're going to look at the Jupiter 8 Model Expansion. The Jupiter 8, like other Model Expansions, is designed for speed and performance in modern DAWs. It has a clear, resizable, touch-friendly interface that's easy to understand, even if you've never used the original hardware. And you'll see that you can swap instruments and load sounds instantly with no disruption to your creative flow. Released in 1981, the Jupiter 8 is one of the most revered and desired polysynths of all time. Its lush, complex sound is on more hit songs than you can count, and its massive analog voice is simply unmatched when it comes to warm pads, strings, and lead tones. So let's hear what it can do. Let's get started by opening up the patch browser. Now, just like other model expansions within Zenology, if the original hardware had presets, you'll find them near the bottom of the patch list in all caps. So let's choose one of these to get started with. Let's choose Fuzzy Fifths. And we're going to press Edit, and this is going to open up all of the parameters that we have to edit and do our sound design. Now, the Jupiter 8 had a lot of interesting modulation capabilities, which were very powerful for sound design and very interesting and big sounding tones. Let's get a sequence running and we'll start to have a play. So this original preset already has some nice modulation going. On the right side, you can see the VCO modulator is where we apply modulations from the LFO, the envelope, to either or both of the oscillators. And right now, we got some pulse width modulation going on that square wave on VCO1. But on the left, you see we've got cross mod and sync. Now these are two more kind of extreme modulations which happen between VCO2 and VCO1. Let's take a listen to some cross mod sounds. Now the cross mod can go from very interesting harmonics to some pretty destructive, chaotic type sounds as well. We'll turn that all the way down. And to take a listen to some of the sync type of sounds, we're going to lower oscillator 2 a couple octaves, because the way that this works is that the modulations are modulating oscillator 1 with oscillator 2. So let's take a listen to what happens when we turn on sync first. And then we're going to add some modulation to oscillator 1 using the envelope. And you get that classic sync sound. And if we put oscillator 2 up an octave, everything's going to go up an octave, because this is what is syncing oscillator 1. All right, let's turn sync off for now. And remember to change our pitch envelope. Now let's take a look at the filter. The Jupiter 8 has two options for filter slopes, which are essentially different types of characters on the filter. You see we've got a 24 dB 4-pole filter and a 12 dB 2-pole filter. And the 12 dB will just be more open. It just lets more harmonics through. And of course, because we're within Zenology, we can use any of the MFX that are available. So we could grab a bit of delay. We'll sync that delay with the tempo. And we've got ourselves quite the nice sound. So let's take a tour of some more sounds. Opening up our browser, we'll start again with one of the original presets. Let's grab mid strings. And we'll play a couple chords. It's got that really rich kind of string sound that the Jupiter 8 is known for. I like it, but let's change our sequence a little bit to make it a bit more interesting. All right, let's take a look at some of the newer presets. We'll move up and take a look at some pads. Reso pad. That's nice. That's got a really cool resonant kind of sound going on with a CE1 chorus. If I take that resonance away, just kind of beefs it up a bit. Let's check out bright pad. Now this one's a little faster with more attack, you know, it's a little more stabby than the previous ones. If I want something a little darker still, let's try dirty little pad. Very cool. Now this has, as we can hear, oscillator 2 tuned up 1/5 above oscillator 1. Really nice. And also, This has a kind of tapey type sound to it, that tape warble. I kind of want more of that. You know, we've got the CE1 chorus on the end, but what if we add just a bit more modulation to the oscillators from the LFO? And we'll turn down our delay time on the LFO. There it is. Very nice. So along with large string pad kind of sounds, the Jupiter 8 was really well known for its brass. Now let's choose one of the original brass patches from the Jupiter 8. Let's go to synth brass, and we'll run a funky sequence. Nice. That's got that really electro R&B kind of sound going on. And there's really not much I'd change about that. You brighten it up a bit, open the filter. And one more with this sequence. Let's take a look at Pluck Swell. Oh, I really like that because you can hear when the notes are more sustained, there's a cool kind of swell at the end. Wow, wow. Very neat. And that modulation delay is really reminiscent of some 80s throwback. Let's try Baser PW. That PW will stand for pulse width, and introduce our simple sequence. Nice. Now this already takes up quite a bit of space in the mix. It's got that Juno 106 chorus, adding a bit of width to it. And we've got one VCO down an octave from the other. Now that's a nice big fat square wave kind of sound. And then VCO 2 has this pulse width up an octave, almost like it has two layers. Let's grab another patch. Saw unison bass. Now that's got a nice kind of tight attack and then a low rumble. I like that. Let's grab one more, burned bass. Whoa. Now that's got a lot of aggressive stuff going on in this patch. Really cool. Now it's got a warm saturator on the output, which is going to be adding a kind of saturation, a bit of distortion on the end. But even without that, there's a lot of cool harmonic material there. Let's switch up the sequence to be more like a kick drum. I'm going to go ahead and close down that filter. It's kind of a hybrid sequence, so it's half kick, half bass. And the whole kick part of this is coming from this aggressive envelope going to the pitch of both VCOs, and that's envelope 1. Neat. Let's switch up the sequence. Nice. The Jupiter 8 and other model expansions are available for Zenology and compatible Roland Zen Core hardware. Get them today at roland.com.